take your hat off. And I said, what do you mean take my hat off, my stocking cap off? What for? I took my hat off and he saw that something was different about me. And he goes, why did you cut your hair? Why did I cut my hair? I keep thinking, did he stalk me? Did he see me somewhere? Was he waiting for me or was he watching me? He says, well, put that hat back on. And then he said, shut the up. And he's yelling at me, you're never going to make it.
Ted Bundy, full name Theodore Robert Bundy, was an American serial killer and rapist. He would later confess to 30 murders, all of young women and girls, by beating with a metal bar and/or strangulation. These murders ranged from 1973, 1978, spanning from Washington, Colorado, Utah, Oregon, Florida, Idaho, Vermont. His true victim total is unknown, and could be much higher. Bundy was regarded as handsome and charismatic, traits that he exploited to win the trust of victims in society. He would typically approach his victims in public places, feigning injury or disability, or impersonating an authority figure, before knocking them unconscious and taking them to secondary locations to rape and strangle them. He sometimes revisited his victims, grooming and performing sexual acts with the decomposing corpses until putrefaction and destruction by wild animals made any further interactions impossible. He decapitated at least 12 victims and kept some of the severed heads as mementos in his apartment. On a few occasions, he broke into dwellings at night and bludgeoned his victims as they slept. In 1975, Bundy was arrested and jailed in Utah for aggravated kidnapping and attempted criminal assault. He then became a suspect in a progressively longer list of unsolved homicides in several states. Facing murder charges in Colorado, he engineered 2 dramatic escapes and committed further assaults in Florida, including 3 murders, before his ultimate recapture in 1978. For the Florida homicides, he received 3 death sentences in 2 trials. He was executed at Florida State Prison in Rye-Ford on January 24, 1989. Anne Rule described him as a sadistic sociopath who took pleasure from another human's pain and the control he had over his victims, to the point of death. And even after, he once described himself as the most cold-hearted son of a bitch you'll ever meet. Timeline and victims. 1973. May 1973, unknown hitchhiker, Tumwater, Washington area. Confessed to Bob Keppel before Bundy's execution. No remains found. 1974. January 4, Joni Lenz. University of Washington first-year student who was bludgeoned in her bed and impaled with a speculum as she slept. February 1st, Linda Ann Healy. Bludgeoned while asleep and abducted from the house she shared with other University of Washington co-eds. March 12, Donna Gail Manson. Abducted while walking to a jazz concert on the Evergreen State College campus, Olympia, Washington. Bundy confessed to her murder, but her body was never found. April 17, Susan Elaine Rancourt. Disappeared as she walked across Ellensburg's Central Washington State College campus at night. May 6, Roberta Kathleen Kathy Parks. Vanished from Oregon State University in Corvallis while walking to another dorm hall to have coffee with friends. June 1, Brenda Carol Ball. Disappeared from the Flame Tavern in Berrien, Washington. June 11, George Ann Hawkins. Disappeared from behind her sorority house, Kappa Alpha Theta, at the University of Washington. July 14, Janice Ann Ott and Denise Marie Naslund. Abducted several hours apart from Lake Sammamish State Park in Issaquah, Washington. September 2, unknown teenage hitchhiker, Idaho. Confessed before his execution. No remains found. October 2, Nancy Wilcox. Disappeared in Holiday, Utah. Her body was never found. October 18, Melissa Smith. Vanished from Midvale, Utah, after leaving a pizza parlor. October 31, Laura Amy. Disappeared from a Halloween party at Lehi, Utah. November 8, Carol DeRunch. Escaped from Bundy by jumping out from his car in Murray, Utah. November 8, Debbie Kent. Vanished from the parking lot of a school in Bountiful, Utah, hours after DeRunch escaped from Bundy. Shortly before his execution, Bundy confessed to investigators that he dumped Kent at a site near Fairview, Utah. An intense search of the site produced one human bone, a kneecap, which matched the profile for someone of Kent's age and size. DNA testing has not been attempted. Bundy is a suspect in the murder of Carol Valenzuela, who disappeared from Vancouver, Washington, on August 2, 1974. Her remains were discovered 2 months later south of Olympia, Washington, along with those of an unidentified female. 1975. January 12. Karen Campbell. Campbell, a Michigan nurse, vanished between her hotel lounge and room while on a ski trip with her fiancé in Snowmass, Colorado. March 15. Julie Cunningham. Disappeared while on her way to a nearby tavern in Vail, Colorado. Bundy confessed to investigators that he buried Cunningham's body near Rifle, Garfield County, Colorado, but his search did not produce remains. April 6. Denise Oliverson. Abducted while bicycling to visit her parents in Grand Junction, Colorado. Bundy provided details of her murder, but her body was never found. May 6. Lynette Culver. Snatched from a school playground at Alameda Junior High School in Pocatello, Idaho. Her body was never found. June 28. Susan Curtis. Disappeared while walking alone to the dormitories during a youth conference at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. Her body was never found. Bundy is a suspect in the murder of Melanie Suzanne Susie Cooley, who disappeared April 15, 1975, after leaving Nederland High School in Nederland, Colorado. Her bludgeoned and strangled corpse was discovered by road maintenance workers on May 2, 1975, in nearby Coal Creek Canyon. Gas receipts placed Bundy in nearby Golden, the day of the Cooley abduction. The Jefferson County, Colorado, Sheriff's Office has classified the Melanie Cooley murder as a cold case. .1978. January 15. Lisa Levy, Margaret Bowman, Karen Chandler, Kathy Kleiner DeShields. The Chi Omega Killings, Florida State University, Tallahassee, Florida. January 15. Cheryl Thomas. Bludgeoned in her bed, 8 blocks away from the Chi Omega sorority house. February 9. Kimberly Leach. Kidnapped from her junior high school in Lake City, Florida. She was raped, murdered and discarded in Suwannee River State Park in Florida.